Hey guys, it's Tuesday afternoon, I believe. It's day 38 of our devlog, and today we are going to continue on with some of our save slot stuff, although we are moving on to a new part of it. Now, from last night, I have tidied a couple of things up, and let's have a look. I have moved, as you can see now, our buttons light up. This lights up. We've only got one back button because these buttons here are going to basically start the game. Okay? But we do have to now add our functionality to those buttons. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on here, and well, let's go to our designer instead. So we've got our button there. Now, on clicked. This is going to be fairly similar to what we actually do when we create a slot. The only difference is going to be that we're going to make the slot that's selected, the current slot, we're going to have to switch every other one off first from as current, and then we're going to have to update our actual slot that we select, and then only after we do that we start the game. Okay, so we do actually have code that does this. Okay, we've got update save game here. We've got create default slot, and we have load the save slots. Right, we're going to remove this for now. Okay. And then we're going to go to our main menu. Now, because I'm using this asset, the way they've done it, they've did all the logic inside the actual menu widget. I would normally not do that. I would actually do it in the controller. But since that's what we are doing, we may as well follow back to where we were, right? So if we go, that's all the hovery stuff. Right? And initialize new game. And we are not actually using this anymore by the looks of it. So we're going to check this out. Hey Manuf, how are you doing? Maruf. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. How are you this afternoon? Hope you are well. We're going to look at the unpressed here, right? And it's initialize new game. And that's kind of not right. Okay. Well, this seems a bit weird, to say the least. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of these off a bit, right? Initialize input, right, we don't want that. And initialize button arrays, we don't want that. Start new. Right. We're not doing that either. Right, this is what we're looking for. New button, new game. Right, so what we do in here is we check if the slot already exists. We don't need to do this because obviously it exists because we're showing the slots, right? But we're going to create slot. Now, this is the thing we need to do here, okay? So, basically, we do this. And we're not going to do it in there, we're going to do it in here. Okay, now our issue here is we won't have a reference to the controller. Okay, so there's a couple of ways we can do it here. We can get player controller and then cast it. Okay, and then this can go in here. Right, now we could have did it another way. We could have actually did it on the construction and created a variable, but nah. Now we've got two things to do here. This part is correct, except for one thing, right? We need to check this slot name oops, did I not get that? No, okay, well whatever. Right, so we're gonna, basically we're still gonna loop through these, right? But we're gonna have two different ways of doing this, depending on whether our element is actually the slot that we're dealing with. Okay, so basically we're going to go through everything and turn them up. If they're not equal to this slot name, we're going to turn this off, and if it is, we're going to turn it on. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to break this, and then we're going to say, is this equal to this? Okay, then we're going to say branch and basically if it's false we're going to do this one. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll join this up correctly and then we'll tidy up our pins. Okay, okay, this we'll just hide unconnected pins. Okay. Drag this down. And this is actually going to go further out. So that is going to be false. And then the only difference, we're going to duplicate that. If it actually wants to duplicate. The only difference here is that is going to be the true version. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're going through all the saved games. And we're basically telling it that if they've clicked on the current game, then we set every other save game to false. Okay? And then we set the one that they clicked to true as the current game. Okay? So basically we know which game is the current game. Oops, that's the wrong, I just did that with the wrong one. So that goes in there. Okay. We can save that again. Alright. We do that. Right? So that's our code, but that's not quite right yet. Okay. And let's have a look at where we were. So this is the ref save slots, right? Then we add, basically we've got to save it to slots now. And we've got to set the current save slot in our instance. So it's basically this part here that we've got to do. Okay. Okay. So hey Screen Apple, nice to see you back. Hope you're doing well. Right, so we're going to do that. We're going to check here, ref save slots, right? Now that's going to be way back here. And we'll put a reroute node on this. Okie doke. Now we might need a temporary variable here. And we are going to need this. Okay. So this is getting to be a little bit naff. Right, so we're going to do that. We'll do that. Keep it tidy. Right, okay. I give in. I'm going to create a temp slot. Okay. And it's going to be struct save slot. Okay. And we're going to set it twice, basically. Okay. And essentially it's going to be wait a minute, that's not right. This isn't right. This is actually fine. Right. So what we want to do is when this is complete, okay, we don't need this here. Okay. What we need to do is we need to set this. Right? So this will go up here if it's true. Now there always has to be a true here, okay? Because I've clicked on a slot, right? So that has to be true. So we basically say this. In fact, we can actually well, let's just do it that way, right? Now, that gives us our current slot, right? Now we want to do this after the fact, okay? Now we could in fact do this up here. Right, so this is us setting our game instance as well. But this part we can actually do once we've done everything else. Okay, on our completed. Okay, because we want all of this to update first. Okay. So we'll do that. Okay. So that updates all our save slots. So as I said before, when we click on a button to load a save game, we turn everything to basically not be the saved game and then switch on the one that is, going by the button that they've just clicked. Once we've updated all of our menu stuff, we need to save that data back out to our save slots, right? And only then, right, we can do open level by name. Okay. Right, and this is going to be Greenland main. Okie doke. That'll do. So this also is going to be, this is going to be something similar to the continue, right? In fact, I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't think it will be. It will just be, this continue will just be all set up anyway, because the instance and everything will be set up. So the reason we're doing this is to give the instance so that the load game easy multi-save knows which slot to use, right, for loading actors and stuff and the condition of the game. So save that, and we may as well try it. And then what we'll have to do is have a look at printing out the instance that we get. Oh yeah, let's go back. I'm not going to load the actual map. Right, what we'll do is we'll load the test map. Okay. So basically it's just test map. Now what we want to do is make sure that that's, yep, that's what it's called. Okie doke. Right. So in theory this should work. Well, that's awesome. And guess who didn't press the save button? Well, that's a pleasant start to the day. Oh well. Sometimes it happens. No one said it was going to be a crash-free afternoon, I suppose. Okay. Right, it wasn't such a bad crash. At least I don't think it was. We'll soon find out. No, for some reason, I had a look at Fluid Ninja, but for some reason it didn't work on my machine. There was weird stuff that didn't work for some reason. So basically I gave it a little bit of a look, and then when it was basically, I tried to do the sort of demo thing, and I tried to copy what they did, and mine's just didn't look like theirs did, right? I didn't have the buttons or the windows that they did. So after an hour or two mucking about with it, I thought, well, that's not going to happen. So just kind of gave up on it. Right. So we're going to add a breakpoint here, and we're going to do a quick save all. And then we'll try and work out, oh, well, that's not going to work because I've not opened the level. Right, so back to main map, main menu, I suppose. Right. Right, so we did put a breakpoint in, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Right, so load game, click button. Right. Right. We'll add a breakpoint here. And there we go. But that didn't really tell you anything, did it? Didn't tell me anything either. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove those breakpoints. Right, and if we go into our proper pawn now, right, so when she fires up, okay, what we're going to do is get the game instance. Right, cast it to GL instance. and then we're going to type in slot, get current slot name. Okay, then we're going to do a print string. And move over here a bit, and we'll say 30 seconds, let's say, and we'll get the slot name, right? Okay. And we obviously need to plug this in. Duh. Okay. So we go load game, and we're going to do test game 3, okay? So it tells us test game 3, okay? Which is important, because when we save the game, we need to tell EMS where to save it and which slot to save it under, right? So this is all why we're doing all this, right? At the end of the day, everything's going to point to the same place. You know, we're going to say load this map, right? But the thing that's going to change the map is the easy multi-save. It's going to tell the pawn and the level everything that needs to happen to get the level back to the state it was in, okay? So for example, if doors were opened, animals shot, fires lit, blah de blah, it's going to have to know all that stuff for this particular slot, right? So what we're going to do, I can't remember what I was going to do there. Oh yeah, I was going to press a different one so you could see the change, right? So this is just new game, okay? And you'll see there it says new game, okay? Now you'll see the fire's lit, the door is open, okay? Now what I need to do is I need to go into our save games, right? And then in EMS I need to tell it what the slot is, okay? And I also need to tell it our individual slot. So we go to plugins, easy multi-save, right? And I can't remember how I did this before. I have done it. Hi Helder Ramos, how you doing, bud? Now we're going to have a little bit of a test with this, okay? But the moral of the story is we need to do something here, okay? And then we need to see the results of it. So if we type EMS, right, hopefully, apparently it's not going to give us easy multi-save thing. Right. So we've got this, actor loaded, pre-save. Right. We've got delete slot, set current save slot. Okay. So this is going to have to go somewhere like basically at the start. Okay. Actually, it has to go after this because we have to get the slot name first. And I mucked that up. Right, that's going to go to there. Okay. This is where the fun starts. Right. So you'll notice now this save game is going to end up called save game options or something. Right, but what I really want to do is actually just delete everything. Right, there you go. We have no save games. Okay, so when we press play, okay, we're going to create a new game. And we're going to call it Screen Apple, if I can bother spelling properly. So we'll call it Screen Apple and create. Okay, now that's not going to do anything yet because I've still to add this part and start it up with that. Okay, but that will allow us. And basically, so now you see it would never do that, right? That's not a logic that can actually happen, so I'm not going to bother worrying about that, because now when I do load game it's there. Okay, so if I hit Screen Apple, right, we've got our Screen Apple. Okay, now here's the interesting part. If I hit 8, actually, you know what we'll do, right, is we'll pick up those and we shall open that door. Okay, and then we'll save the game. Then we'll stop it. We'll check our save games to see what exists in our save games now. You'll notice we've got a save game called Screen Apple. Okay? Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new game. Then it's going to be called Helder. Right? So we'll create that. And we'll stop it. Now, what you got to remember here, what I'm trying to demonstrate is that these are two separate games, right? So if we say load game and we go Helder, okay, you'll notice nothing is lit, no doors are open, and nothing is happening with our plates of food. Okay? Now, here's the magic, hopefully. If I hit screen apple, door is open, plates are gone. Our save loading system is working absolutely perfectly. Okay, so for screen apple, door is open, plates are gone, we've got stuff in our inventory, etc, etc. Okay, we start the Helder version. No doors open, nothing in our inventory, plates are still there, job's a good one. And there you have it, we have saving the state of the world as it is in different games now. So basically the player can now create multiple saves. Okay, dismiss that for now. And if we go back to our save slot, okay, we should, in actual fact, be able to just copy that, right? And when we do a new game, that's not it. This is it. Right, when we hit this button here, right, we're doing all this. We've created our slot. We can basically start the game. Right. Now, we can check to see if this is working properly, because we should get whatever name we type in for the new game, it should be the save game name, right? So if I click that and we say my game, then we press create, we've got my game. Okay, so if we now press A to save, we escape it. Okay, and we look at our save games, we've got my game and screen apple. Now there's something weird. Where did Helder's game go? I know. his data wasn't saved because I didn't save the game, right? But basically all that means is there's no data there, right? If we actually load up Helder's game, right? So we say load game. There's my game now there, Helder's game, Screen Apple's game. We can click on that. Right, now the thing was that I never pressed to save. I just left it, right, basically as was. So what we could do with Helder's game is we could light this. Okay. Then we can save it. Okay, now you'll notice this time we've got Helder's game, right? So we've now got our 3 saves with all the data that we require for each of the different games, right? So just to reinforce the point, if we load a game and we load Helder's game, you'll notice our fire's lit, but the plates are still there and the door's shut. Okay? If we play it again and we play Screen Apple's game, we get a different... I'm not going to labour the point any further after this, guys, but you can see there that the plates are gone, door's open, fire's not lit, everything's cool. Okay? So, we can create a game and we can load a game. Okay? Now, the only thing really left now is to delete slots. Okay? And we need to incorporate that into our menu as well, which we're going to call manage data or something. So basically we've got a couple of things. Because this is a little more complex than what the asset was, the asset only ever allowed you to save three slots, right? We want you to be able to save as many as you like. Okay, now the issue here is I'm going to have to obviously add a button here, right? So we're going to have to have a new game, load game, manage data. Right? Or something. So that it brings up a list of the saves so that you can pick one to delete. So we can do that once I come back. I'm going to have a quick cigarette. I'll be back in 2 minutes. In the meantime, you guys hit the like and subscribe. Helps a lot. Check out the description. It's got links to the Groenland Discord, my personal Discord, my Patreon, and my previous game on Steam. And also, there's a trailer up for Groenland on my YouTube page. The first trailer. Okay, so you can check that out if you... But, most importantly, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Okay, folks, we are back. So we basically have one more thing to do regarding this, right? Now, I think we have to set up this. Yeah, I've done the continue, right? But we need to do a delete or something. In other games, I've basically said manage data, which sounds kind of pompous, but what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Do you think manage data, delete slot, delete game, delete save? What do you think? In the meantime, just checking on the football scores there. Football as in soccer to our American friends. So basically we need another button, right? We need another button in here somewhere. Okay, that's going to allow us to delete a slot. So we're going to need a button, and we are going to need stretch menu. What do you mean? Not sure what you mean by that. Okay, I'll tell you what. It's basically by using your anchors and stuff, right? You're better not setting certain things to certain sizes, right? But you'll notice that this has got a scale on it. So basically it will scale. Okay? So if I was to open this in full screen, it would be scaled up. At least I hope it would be. It's basically by setting anchors, right? You'll notice, like, not in there necessarily. Not in there necessarily, but you'll notice there's anchors, right? And you can set the anchors to be like in certain positions. And these are all relative, okay? So you can set it to be up top left. So if I stretch the screen up, it's going to move it in relation to the anchor, right? And some of it, like another thing a lot of people wonder about, right? What I'm going to do is, I'm going to open a button, right? I'm going to add another button. Okay? Now, got our main panel, then this border roundabout, right? Now here is a little tutorial. I've got a button there, right? Now, say the text was longer, okay? So say this one was continue the game, okay? Now you'll notice that it made all the buttons bigger, but that's not really what you want, right? But what you can do is you can wrap it with a scale box, right? And that'll set the text to only be a certain size. Now, the way this has been done is crap, right? Because it's just going to scale to size, right? Which isn't what we want, which I may end up changing later. These are the types of things I do off the screen, right? Off stream. But let's do one more thing. This is a menu switch. So that's a widget switcher, right? Damn it. Okay, whatever. Right. What we'll do is, let's say I add a canvas panel to that widget switcher, right? Now, you'll notice that our canvas panel is the full size of the screen, right? Now, if I add another canvas panel to that, right, I can anchor it to the center of the other canvas panel. Okay, and then if I set it to 0 and 0 and then 0.5, it's exactly in the center. Okay. Now, if I was to stick a vertical box in here, okay, and then let's say I stick a button and then another button, okay. Now, if I add text to that button, you'll notice how it doesn't scale properly, right? But if I then wrap this with a scale box, you'll notice that it actually sets. Hi, Stormrun Gaming. You'll notice that now this text scales to the proper size inside the button. Okay. Now, if I do the same thing again, right, you'll notice our text block, right? This is long text. Okay. You'll notice that its normal size is way bigger than the button. Okay. But again, if I wrap it with a scale box, it'll actually size it down to the size of the button. Okay. And that's how you can make sure that text always fits on a button, right? You just wrap it with a scale box, okay? You watched a 4-hour tutorial. Oh, I wonder what a 4-hour tutorial was on. So you can do that type of thing, right? And then what you can do as well is you can add a size box, right? And a size box will keep something at a particular size and it won't scale, okay? So if, for example, we went to this, right, and I don't know what's going to happen here, but we just do these things for a laugh. Right, so we've added an image, okay? So let's select an image. Right? Let's select a proper image. Right, that one will do. Right, so let's say we wanted to do this image. Right, now you'll notice that it did some weird stuff. Right? But if I wrap this in a size box, okay, and then I tell the size box to be a certain size, let's say 100 by 100, right, and that won't scale, right, that will stay because you've got this width override and height override, okay? So that's another way you can lock something and size it, okay? So you've got the scale box, which will scale stuff like text inside a button or whatever, and then you've got your size box where you can state the actual width and height and the minimum desired width and stuff like that, right? So you can do all that. Now here, right, we'll go back to this. Where'd it go? And we clicked on the wrong bit. So it was, this was open. Where did that go? Right, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Right, so this was it here, right? Okay, this is another bit that people don't get, right? Until somebody explains it to them, it becomes instantly obvious, right? So, say for example, I'm going to delete this vertical box now, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a horizontal box. Okay? Now, let's say I add a button. And let's say I add another button. And just for good measure, I add another button. Okay, now you'll notice there that there's a bit of space, doesn't look very good, blah blah blah. Right, so what if I press fill? Well, only that one gets bigger, right? That one gets bigger, that one gets bigger, right? But say I want this one to be twice as big as the other two, right? Well, we can do that with the fill button, right? We can put it on fill, right? And we can say this is going to be 60%. You can do it as a normalized number, but it's just easier to demonstrate as a percentage, right? So we can do 20 and 20, right? And now this is 60%, 20%, 20%. And if you use those values, right, if it's in as part of a like a sub widget, right, you're always going to get it all nice and lined up, right? So if you want to do, like, let's say a high score table, right, what you can do is you can set it up that your headers have got a certain fill percentage and your actual columns of data have that same fill range of settings. So you can say 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. And then on your data, you do basically set up the same 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, right? And then you know that your header is going to line up exactly with the data underneath, right? So a lot of people, and up to a point, I didn't know what this really did. But if you set this to fill and then put in a value, you know, you can normalize it, or you can set it to 100 or whatever, but it's just going to take it as like a multiplier against the other things in that horizontal box or whatever it is, right? So that's another way you can line stuff up. And that's also another way that's going to scale, right? Because if I make that bigger, these are still going to stay at 60%, 20%, and 20%, right? And then, of course, for each button, you can put text in it, right? And then wrap that text in a scale box. Right? And it will resize it to the size of the box. Right? So if I wrap that in a scale box, you'll notice it's tiny. Right? But if I now change this and I say, notice here, if I change that to 40%, right, it scales down, and this, if I change this up to 40, you notice that scaled down, that scaled up. So these are all staying that the text is inside the button. Okay? Pretty cool. So this also comes in very, very handy if you are doing different languages, right? Because you don't know if, for example, like let's say the word library, okay? Right? So if I say library, okay? Well, that's a great size in English, right? But let's say we were to do it in French. Well, it's actually bibliotech. I think that's how you spell it. Long time since I was in school and took French, right? But you'll notice that it still fits, right? No matter how badly I spelled it, right? Because it resizes it. So this is really, really useful when you're doing localization, okay? Because you know that you're not going to have some huge amount of text coming out the sides because of a different language, okay? So in reality, and the minute we decide that we're going to do a localization like in French or German or Spanish or whatever it is, I'll go back and basically wrap every single text box in a scale box, right? So that when we do localize it, all the text still fits in the right buttons and within the boxes that they should be in, okay? So that was another little tutorial thing for you. So you can use the fills for headers and to line stuff up better. You can use the scale box to limit text to fit within a button. You can use the size box to lock a specific size for a box. And there is another box, right, which is a pretty interesting one. Right? And I can't remember what it's called. I'm going to have to try and wrap something with it. So I'm going to fit something. Right. In fact, if I don't want to do this with this, just in case I screw it up. Right, I'm going to go back to main menu, widgets. Right, I'll do it with a save slot, right? Right, say for example, you've got your HUD, okay? Now, you'll know that these widgets run at 60 frames a second, right? But say you don't want it to run at 60 frames a second, okay? Say you want the HUD to run at update only once every 10 frames, okay? Well, you could code that, right? But the problem is that the widget actually still does update every frame, right? So, but what you can do with this is basically you can select parts of it or whatever, and what you can do is wrap it with a retainer box, right? I'm pretty sure it's a retainer box. And what the retainer box does is it allows you to do render on phases, right? So I'm gonna make this screen a bit bigger for you guys so you can see this and what I'm doing here, right? And what this actually says. Right? If you wrap it in a retainer box, right, you can do a few things, but one of the most important things is phase, right? And basically it tells you if the phase is 0 and the phase count is 1, the widget will draw fresh every frame. Okay? If the phase were 0 and the phase count were 2, this retainer would draw a fresh frame every other frame. So you can make the widgets render like at half the speed of the game, right? Which is obviously going to save you in performance, right? So if you've got a widget that doesn't need updated every frame, you can wrap the whole thing in a retainer box and then tell it which frames you want it to update on, okay? Now, in a menu, main menu or whatever, that's obviously not going to be important, right? Because you're not bothered too much about performance at that point, and you're not going to have performance issues, right? But if it's in like a heavily performative game, then you might want that your HUD is only updating every other frame or whatever, right? And this eliminates the need for any coding to do it, right? All you need to do is set up these numbers and tell it when to actually refresh the widget on the screen, okay? So that's just another little interesting thing that you can do to increase performance. Now, I'm not sure, but I actually might use that. Or maybe not. I don't know if I do or don't. I did play around with it. But anyway. So hopefully that little off-topic thing has taught you something. And you might know how to use scale boxes and fills and stuff, etc. So like the likes of this, for load game, this might be like a really long bit of text in Spanish or something. So anything like this would go in a scale box. Same with this, right? I would normally go back to this and put a scale box around it, right? It's not going to change it if it's big enough, right? But if this text was longer, then it would automatically do it. And I know that the scale box is going to do it, so that would be it, done. I don't need to worry about that text overlapping this button, okay? And again, I would end up doing the same with this. All I would do, wrap it with a scale box, right? And that would be that. Now, there was one thing that I wanted to sort out here. Because I changed it from a uniform grid last night, right, we've got this VB slots, okay, and that's okay, and that's okay, But in our actual save slot, this was a little bit weird because of the way it was doing it. And let me see. Yeah, that was 5 on the right. But the actual text, you see how it's got this padding on it? That was because it was weird. So we should really wrap that in a scale box. Okay. Save that. And now the text on our load games shouldn't be, yeah, you see how they're now centered. Much nicer. Alright. Okay. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add a button to the main menu part. Okay, so we're going to have to add a button in here somewhere, right, which is so we've got our new game, our load game, so we can duplicate that. Then we could add these to this string table if we wanted, but we're not going to. So okay. And now that we've got this, they've got all of these in capital, so we may as well do the same. Not that it makes any difference in our font, but right, so we've got manage data. Then we need to change the name of it to manage data. Then we're going to have unhovered on unhovered and pressed or clicked. Right. And this is basically just going to set this to 4. Okay. Now, you're asking why did I say 4? Well, this is our load game panel. Right, so we've got this main panel, right? And it's got these, this is the widget switcher here, right? It starts off at 0, which is the main panel. 1 is the new game panel. 2 is the options panel. 3 is the load game panel. And then basically what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate that. And this is going to be the manage data panel. Okay. So the interesting thing here is these are all going to have their new buttons, right? With the new slots. And the easiest way to do this is just to create a new button that actually deletes itself, right? And then take it from there. But in the meantime, we can basically say manage data. Okay. And now, when we go in here, and we click that, we're on the manage data thing. Now it's not going to load those buttons because we've no code in it yet. And that button's obviously not going to do anything because we haven't coded that either, but we do have our manage data thing. Now this button, or at least this text, doesn't look the same as the others. That's because they're not part of the same thing. Okay. Right, this is because they aren't part of the same assets, but I can fix that. We can make that hover and stuff. That's not a problem. Right, but what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this. And we're going to say delete slot. Okay. And we'll stop that for now. And in our delete slot, all we need to do is not have this, right? What we basically do I believe right, I'm going to create a functional you do a fade, believe it or not. You can, it's already there. I'm pretty sure if you create a widget you can fade it in, because basically it already does it in this. Right, let me show you where it does it. I didn't write this, but I knew you could do it. Right, so it loads this, right, so it's this thing here. If we go to the graph, I'm pretty sure I've saw it. Right, it's got fade in menu. Right, so basically what they've done, is they've created an animation that fades it in. Right, so if I go to designer here for this, you'll notice it's got this fade in animation, and you can look at the timeline. It's just going to do the opacity, right? So it fades it in over 3 seconds, and it goes from opacity 0 to opacity 1, right? So that's basically how you do it. Okay. So if you were going to do this, right, it's hard to show you in this, right? Because there's so much going on, and it's somebody else's asset. Yeah, it's someone else's asset that I'm basing this on, so there's certain things I don't like doing, and just in case I muck things up, right? Let me see if I can show you something else, or let me see if I can show you in a different way. Right, okay. What I'll do is, I'll create a widget, right? Widget fade in, okay? And what we're going to do is, we're just going to add a text box, right? And we're going to just make it huge. It doesn't really matter. And center it. Make it 100, right, so you can see it. Right. So what I can do here is I can add an animation, right? And let's call it fade in. Okay. Then you go to timeline. We select that, right? And then what we do is we add our text, right? And then we add a track, and it's not that. We say color and opacity, right? And then we can set it to, let's say, 3 seconds. Right, so what we do here is right, we can set alpha to 0, and then if we click on this, it adds a keyframe, so you'll notice it's added a keyframe. And then at this keyframe, right, we can change it to 1. Okay, now it doesn't matter about any of these, we could delete them or whatever. Right, but you'll notice if I play this, it does nothing. Right, the opacity at this point should not be, no, it should be 0. Right, so you'll notice it comes up, right? Now what I can do now is I can actually get it to do it itself, right? So I can say on event construct play animation. You can play it in forward or reverse as well, so you can fade it out just as easy as you can fade it in. Right? We can say self, right? And it should be, we should have been able to select it there, but we can get it. We can say get fade in, right, because it's now a variable, and we just say fade in. Okay, now what we can do, about 3 years, maybe 4, can't remember. Right, so if we go back to here, or in fact not there, if we go back to our controller, right, and I wish I'd stop hitting that button on the side of my mouse, it's because I'm left-handed. Right, what we could do is create widget, okay, and this is going to be fade in, right, we're not going to do it there, we're going to do it there. I'm going to add it to viewport, then we're going to plug this back in here. Okay, so when I press play, you see that it fades in. Okay, now I could amend that, right? If I go back to designer, right, and I go back to here, what I could do is say I want it to delay for 2 seconds, right? So I could say in here it's at 0.74 at this point, right? So all I do is click this button here, add a new key, right, and switch this to 0, right? So I want it to stay invisible up until the 2 second mark, and then it will fade in the last second, okay? And that's what it's going to do. There you go. Now, what I could do is go back and change this and say play. I'm gonna have to stop it first. Play animation in reverse. You can do anything you like. Screen Apple. It is up to you and your imagination. What I can do is do it in reverse. There we go, and it fades out. Okay. Now, if you imagine the sort of things you could put this to, you could put it to like a flashing message, a warning or something that's flashing red. You could just fade it in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Then you, for the rest of time, and just basically set it on repeat, okay? But hopefully that's given you some ideas. And I'm going to now finish up. It's nice to see you pop by. I love IHOP. Most people don't know what that is apart from Americans. IHOP is the International House of Pancakes. Right, it's a brand. Anyway, if you enjoyed the stream, hit like and subscribe. Check out descriptions for links to the Groenland Discord, where everybody's welcome, as well as my own personal Discord, my Patreon, where you can support the channel, and my previous game on Steam, also made in Unreal Engine. So check that out as well. I thank you all for watching and popping along in the questions in the chat. I shall probably be back at 8 PM Central tonight with another couple of hours. I shall see you later, guys. Bye bye for now.